Hey there, everybody. Hope you're doing okay. I'm sorry for signing on a little bit late. I don't know why I've been having technical issues. I've been doing this almost 3 years, and it just seems like things are not working the way that they normally do. But nonetheless, I'm here. I'm going to give just a few minutes for folks to find us and to get connected. We're going to be having an actually really important conversation tonight. I'm actually really looking forward to it. As I said in the little promotion for our conversation tonight, this is going to be the most consequential conversation we have ever had on Shake the Table. And so I really appreciate you all connecting with me on tonight. As you all are coming on, I would ask that you all would go ahead right now before we get into the subject matter, start tagging people, start sharing this. I'm already getting hairs standing up on my arms. I cannot express to you how important this conversation is. And so we need to get all of our friends, all of our family, folks that you've been talking to who may not necessarily be connected to what's going on in the political realm right now. Everybody needs to be a part of this conversation right now. And so if you would just tag and share, back in the old days when we had a radio broadcast, you'd say, get on the phone and call them and tell that Will Horn is on. And so we're going to shake the table together tonight, okay? And so I'm looking at you all signing on. It's so good to see all of you. Cammie, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, my cousin, John. It's good to see you, man. Brandon, it's good to see you. Folks from all over the country have actually been reaching out to me with questions about this, particular insights about it. Is this really, as big as we're making it out to be? And I want to say unequivocally, yes, it really is a big deal. And so let's get as many people on board as we can. Hey, Derwin, it's good to see you, my brother. Kane, it's good to see you. Thank you all for being here on tonight. Let's go ahead and get as many people in the room as we can. All right. I forgot to turn my music on. I was so caught up with trying to get this camera to act right. But you got a song in your heart anyway. And so, yeah, good, man. It's good to see you all signing on. It's good to see you. We're going to get started in probably about a minute or so, because I don't want to really belabor this or take, too much of your time. I don't want to go over an hour, but I got a lot of notes here. And so if I do go over a little bit, I'm going to ask you guys on the front side to please forgive me. I just want to make sure that I get this information to you guys so that you can be informed, okay? So again, we're tagging, we're sharing, we're sending smoke signals, whatever it is we need to do to make sure that folks are a part of this conversation. I appreciate your help. I appreciate it. All right, let me get my notes up here. I'm going to trust that on the replay, a lot of folks will catch this and we'll be able to share it at that point. But again, like I said, I want to go ahead and get started sharing this information with you. Now, before I get to the stuff that I've got on my notes, I need to give what we call my personal location in this conversation. I present as an African American, same gender loving man who happens to also be a seminary educated minister. Okay. So I come to this conversation carrying all of that. So I'm talking to you today as a Black man. I am talking to you today as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. And I am also talking to you from a qualified place as a Christian minister. Might I say neo-Christian minister, okay? And so as we are having this conversation, I want you all to be sensitive to the emphasis that I might give on certain things, because it is very personal for me, okay? As it should be for you as well. What is going on in this country, whether you're participating or not, does not exclude you. I need you to understand that you are an integral part of this whole conversation and equation. And so we're having this conversation tonight so that we can shake you. Well, maybe not you, because y'all are here, but shake the people who may have been lulled to sleep and who don't see themselves a part of this process. Okay? And so tonight, again, we are having a conversation about Christian nationalism and the Project 2025 manifesto. Again, I believe that everyone that's joining me in this moment has heard of Project 2025 by this point. It's been all over the news. It's been all over social media. Many of you have probably also heard the term Christian nationalism. How much you know about that, may vary. But at least we have heard this in the ethos. And so I want to do my part as a table shaker, as a servant in my community, to dig into this as much as I can. And I'm hopeful that you all will participate in this conversation. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, perspectives, all of those are welcomed here in this space, okay? And so here we go. Christian nationalism and Project 2025. I think it's important that we understand that you can't really talk about one without talking about the other, because they really go hand in hand, okay? Before we really dig down into this, I believe it is important that I define for you, as best I can, what Christian nationalism really is. Because I think when we understand what it is, we'll understand the danger of it. Because this is something that is not new. It is not new at all. As a matter of fact, it has been present with us as soon as white people started to arrive on the shores of this land, okay? And I want to say to you as well, I want to make sure that you all are ready for this conversation, okay? And so I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace. So if I get really passionate, if I might happen to say something that's a little salty, or you all think the Reverend should not say, forgive me for that, but we're going to have a real conversation tonight. Is there anybody that's okay with it? Give me some hearts or some claps or something like that. We're going to talk tonight. All right. I got that out of the way so nobody can say that they were shocked. Okay. So the definition of Christian nationalism, I tried to break it down. It's a lot to it, but just go with me. Christian nationalism. We need to understand that it is a political and cultural ideology. It's a way of thinking that combines Christianity with the idea of nationalism. Okay? What it does is it asserts that the United States was founded as a Christian nation and should continue to be governed by Christian principles. Some of you probably kind of heard that, people saying that the United States was, founded as a Christian nation. We know better than that. But again, there are people who hold on to and operate from that ideology, okay? So that's kind of a high-level explanation of it. They believe that the United States was founded as a Christian nation and that it should continue to be governed that way. There's some things that I broke out here, just in terms of some other things that they believe. They believe that the country's laws and policies ought to be based on Christian teachings, Christian values. And it's interesting that they will often emphasize white male supremacist interpretations of Christianity. So I want to make sure that you all understand that this is not missionary Baptist Christianity. This is not Kojic Christianity. This is not even mainline, Methodist or Episcopalian Christianity. This is some fringe. Oh, see, I'm up. Pray for my mouth. Okay, this is some fringe stuff that they're talking about. Okay, and it emphasizes white male superiority and dominance. It typically advocates for policies that reflect, again, their biblical teachings. And so they oppose things like abortion and same-sex marriage and pluralism and secularism in the government and education. Everything they believe should be their brand of Christianity. It goes on and views Christianity not only as a religion, but they see it as an identity. There are black people and white people who identify more as a Christian than they do their ethnic group. And so they believe it's a part of their identity. To go a little farther, they believe that Christianity is a part of American identification. So if you are a real American, you have to be a Christian. So all of the other people that practice all of the other faith traditions are not real Americans, according to these Christian nationalists. Are you all starting to get the gist of how these people think? It's very exclusive. It is very white-centered, okay? So we got to understand again how dangerous this is. Let me go on. It promotes the idea that the founding fathers intended for it to be an explicitly Christian nation. And so they downplay diversity. They downplay the religious beliefs of other people. And in some cases, Christian nationalism can also be intertwined, like I said, with this ethnic exclusivity. It's very much rooted in whiteness. Okay. And I hope nobody's offended in that, because there are a whole lot of people that follow me from various ethnic backgrounds, black and white and Latino and those kinds of things. And so when I say whiteness, I'm not talking about white people. I am talking about a perspective or an ideology that raises the privilege of white people above those of other people. Okay. I hope I made that clear. All right. And so critics of Christian nationalism basically say that it undermines everything that the United States stands for, that America stands for. It undermines the rights of minorities and marginalized people and oppressed people, which in my opinion, it absolutely does. But people who are supporters of Christian nationalism, and again, I want to make sure that we understand that there are black Christian nationalists. Okay. Go check out old boy that's running for governor in North Carolina. Look at Ben Carson. Look at, Clarence Thomas. There are black people, Candace Owens, black people who support Christian nationalism. Okay. So we just got to make that differentiation. Okay. But supporters, they just believe that this is the way that we uphold or hold on to morality in America. Okay. As if to say that you can't be moral unless you're a Christian. But I digress. So that, as best I can, describes Christian nationalism. At its root, it says that this country was founded on Christianity, which, again, anyone who understands the Constitution knows that it is not. Okay? Now, the history of it, the history of Christian nationalism, and I told you this is not new. It has been with us literally since the folks hit the Plymouth Rock. Okay? It's baked into the fabric of this country. It is a part of who and what this country is. In the colonial era, 1600s, 1700s, when folks started showing up here, as soon as they got here, Puritans, Protestants, all of them, when they got to this land, they thought it was some kind of divine mission to come here and set up this utopian Christian society. That was the mindset that a lot of these people came with. And it is ironic that they came here saying that they were setting up, this Christian utopia. But as soon as they got here, they began to initiate a genocide, stealing land from the indigenous people, committing awful atrocities. But again, their brand of Christianity not only allows these things, but motivates these things. Because when you believe that Christianity and whiteness are superior, then you will do whatever it takes, whether it is genocide or the stealing of land or whatever it is, you will do whatever it takes to maintain Christian privilege and white privilege. So it's been here since the very beginning. After the revolution, the Revolutionary War and all of that kind of stuff, there were still, when they were trying to frame the Constitution, all of that, there were these Christians that were still saying that it needed to be a Christian nation. In the 19th and 20th century, when American slavery was at its peak, when Jim Crow was at its peak, when the Ku Klux Klan had up to, 6 million members, these people still identified as Christian. KKK members identified as Christian nationalists. World War I, World War II, during that time when we were fighting against communism, Christian nationalism was there that twisted this thing all together. That's where God and country comes from. During that time is when we put one nation under God into the Pledge of Allegiance. That's when In God We Trust showed up on our money. All of this is from Christian nationalism. But what I want you to really know, and this is very important because this current iteration of Christian nationalism that we have is really something that started back in 1979. My husband says I'm a historian. I like history. Maybe I'm just a nerd. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's important that you understand the foundation and understand what undergirds this so that we can not just tear down the stuff that's been built on top of it, but we tear up the foundation of it. Okay? So back in 1979, a man named Jerry Falwell. That's a name many of you know already. If you don't know that name, you need to know. Jerry Falwell and some of his cronies, Pat Robertson, the guy that started at the 700 Club, James Robinson, Paul Weyrich, some of these ultra-conservative people came together and they formed something called the Moral Majority. This is back in 79, okay? I was 9 years old. I was already here, okay? So it wasn't that long ago. 1979, they put together the Moral Majority, and their intention was explicit. It was to pull together a group of these ultra-conservative Christians, mostly white, and they were to form basically a political organization. They were Christians, but they were specifically political because what they wanted to do was to influence politics in a way that bent to their benefit. So they wanted to bring Christian values, Christian principles, Christian perspectives into the government. Again, the First Amendment, the Establishment Clause said that there should be separation of church and state, but this moral majority was intentional. They felt like the way that they were going to retain hegemony was to run the government. And so they established this moral majority. which was based upon segregation at first. Okay. That's what they were really upset about. But they flipped that over to abortion. Go read that on your own. What this moral majority did is basically go and get in the bed with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was a governor out in California. He was going to run for president. He was pretty much a secular kind of person. In many ways, I wouldn't say that he was as, deplorable as Donald Trump, but in a lot of ways, they're very similar. The moral majority said, Ronald Reagan will get you elected if you toe the line. And so they made this relationship. And I need you to understand that the moral majority and Ronald Reagan were the ones who first started saying, make America great again. That's where that came from. Donald Trump didn't come up with that. Ronald Reagan came up with that. So I need you to understand that 1979, what is that, 45 years ago? This has been in the works. It's not new. It's been happening right under our nose. But there are a lot of people who have not been paying attention and who have allowed this to insidiously infiltrate the government. Okay? We see it played out in the Tea Party. We see it, played out in some of these crazy people, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley, all of these people who are in Congress now who call themselves outwardly Christian nationalists. But basically, Christian nationalism is white nationalism. Okay? But this is something that has been in the works a long time. And so we didn't get here overnight. We didn't get here all of a sudden. This is something that has been in the works for a long time. Okay? So that's history. That's background. I hope you understand what Christian nationalism is. I want you to go look up Jerry Falwell. I want to say this too, because some of y'all don't understand how all of these things connect together. Jerry Falwell is the founder of Liberty University in Virginia. I know a lot of y'all get, advertisements from them to come and do a master's degree there at Liberty University. But Liberty University came out of the segregation schools. It's like Bob Jones. It was a segregation academy. That's what Jerry Falwell was all about. And so for black people to spend your hard-earned money to go and get a degree from that school where you are indoctrinated into Christian nationalism and white nationalism should not be. And so if some of you are thinking about going to Liberty, reach out to me and let me see what I can do to help you get some education somewhere else as it relates to theology. Okay? So that's how that all comes together. So again, moving on. What is the goal of Christian nationalism? What's the goal? I told you I'm going to talk to you straight tonight. Okay? Their goal is to create something called a theocracy. Not a republic, but a theocracy. A theocracy refers to a form of government where religious leaders run it. Priests, reverends, bishops, imams, okay, run the government. And they do it in the name of their God. Countries like Iran, Afghanistan, Yemen, Mauritania, there's another one, Saudi Arabia, they have theocracies right now. And isn't it interesting that the United States wants to run off and be the police all over the world and talk about human rights violations because of Sharia law and how these theocracies treat women and how they behead women and how they're so oppressive and all of these kinds of things? Again, the hypocrisy of these Christian nationalists. They have a problem when it's a Muslim country that is being oppressive, but they have no problem when it's the United States under what they consider Christian morals and values being oppressive. But again, I digress. Theocracies, again, are not representative governments. They are governments where, again, religious leaders are in place to impose religious law over the people. It doesn't matter what you believe. You're going to live according to the laws that have been set up by this religious establishment. Who's ever heard of the Taliban? Anybody? You ever hear the Taliban? Taliban is basically the religious police in Afghanistan. Okay? Well, there are people in this country who want to establish a Christian Taliban. They want to govern your morality. Those of you who have made money on OnlyFans, those of you who may, be interested in adult entertainment, do you know under Christian nationalism that pornography would be against the law? It's actually happening in some states already. You can't even log on to it. I'm not encouraging that you do, but again, as a grown person, you can do what you want to do. But under a theocracy, you would not be able to. And these are the kinds of things that these Christian nationalists are looking to do. They want to put in place a government that will legislate your morality. They basically want to roll back all of the advances that have been made in the 20th century and take us all the way back to some old, archaic, draconian, Old Testament kind of way of living. That's their goal. So feeding the hungry, caring for the sick, taking care of the widows, hospitality for the immigrant, all of the things that Christianity, that Jesus stands for, these are anathema to what Christian nationalists want to do. They don't want to have any parts of those things. They're only looking to oppress, to roll back rights, to be able, again, to elevate Christianity and elevate white supremacy. Black people, other people of color, women, the LGBT community, immigrants, all of these groups of people will suffer under a theocracy. And so, again, we got to keep that in our minds. So Project 2025, some people would ask, what is that? What is it? And I want to really, it is almost hard to believe that we are actually in this place. For those of you who don't know what Project 2025 is, it is a manifesto. What it is a political platform that has been laid out to speak to what a conservative administration would look like. I mean, they laid it out. It's 970 pages. It is detailed. It is as detailed as it can get. And it is as frightening or more than any Stephen King novel that you can read. Because it's the truth. It's exactly what they're thinking. I want to give you some of the elements of Project 2025 so that you can understand what this really means for your life. And I want to say this too, because some people are confused thinking that Project 2025 would not be implemented unless Donald Trump is elected, that none of it would start. Well, I need to let you know that some of it has already started. Remember, I told you they've been working on this since 1979. When Jerry Falwell and that moral majority got in, one of the first things they decided that they needed to do was to get the Supreme Court. Because they knew if they got the Supreme Court, they could turn over Roe v. Wade, they could roll back some of these other advances as far as civil rights was concerned, all of that stuff. And guess what? They got it. They got it. The moral majority, our version of that, now is the Federalist Society. It's a new group with the same old song, the same old stuff, okay? But they are the ones who suggested Amy Coney Barrett and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh so that we have this supermajority now. They got the Supreme Court, and they knew that if they did, they could do whatever they want. So it's already started. They've already rolled back a woman's right to choose. They just gave Trump immunity. They made him a king. Basically, the president can do whatever the president deems the president wants to do as long as the president is the president. And there's no prosecution. That's already happened. They've already rolled back DEI programs and affirmative action programs. And I need to help some other people on here, some non-black people, because again, people always try to say that DEI and affirmative action, that all of those things was of some great benefit to black people, which they were. But do you know who the greatest benefactors or beneficiaries of those programs are? It's white women. So white women, I know you think you're safe, but the truth is that white male dominance is coming for you as well. Amen. I'm just saying what it is. Okay. Do you know they've already criminalized homelessness? It's against the law in many places to be homeless. You know what I believe that's all about? They're going to round up all the homeless people, throw them in prisons, because you know in prison slavery is still legal. Check the 13th Amendment. Throw them all in jail and make them work. The prison industrial complex is a huge moneymaker. Because they've got the courts, they can criminalize anything they want. They can make any of us an outlaw just by being who we are and living how we live. LGBT people, if they decided that being a same gender loving person or a transgender person was not only morally reprehensible, but a criminal act, they could throw you in jail because it's the law. It's already happening. They're already trying to teach the Bible in Oklahoma and hanging up the 10 Commandments in Louisiana. And again, if it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court says it's okay, then that opens the door for it to happen everywhere. These are the elements of Christian nationalism and things that we are seeing in Project 2025. And if that does not scare the hell out of you, you are not paying attention. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian minister, a preacher, and teacher. And the last thing I want is Christianity being taught in a public school. It is secular for a reason. There are people of many faiths who are in our public schools. And the truth is that many people who identify as Christian don't identify with a Christian nationalist brand of Christianity. But if they have their way, your little Johnny and little Susie is going to be up at the school, and little Miss Johnson, who has no training in the text, is going to basically teach the curriculum that she has been handed. And they're going to send home a little white supremacist to your house. And so all you black folks out there, all you Christians that have been clapping, yeah, we need to bring the Bible back to school and it need to be the 10 Commandments and all of that. You sound like a dummy. You have no idea how Christianity has been wielded throughout the ages to oppress and to murder and to pillage and to enslave. I want you to understand that the Christianity of the enslaved person, the marginalized or the oppressed person, that Christianity is about liberation. Well, the Christianity of white supremacy is about domination. So they're two very, very different things. And so before you start clapping and supporting this, you need to understand what it really means. Are you all hearing me? I hope you are. Okay? So these are things that have already started to happen. I've got a list of things that I want to read to you all I won't be able to dig into them the way that I want to, but I just need you to hear what's in this Project 2025. I just need you to hear it. They want to eliminate the Department of Education. Some people don't even understand how dangerous something like that is when it comes to controlling the population. The Department of Education is in place to protect public education. And do you realize that what's getting ready to happen is, as it relates to education, is that there has, under this Project 2025, under a conservative administration, and again, I live in Texas, and so, we're far ahead on trying to get some of this stuff done. This whole voucher program thing is a money grab. They will be taking money out of public education, giving vouchers to people who are already wealthy to be able to go to private religious schools. So those schools will be funded, but the public schools will not. Most black and brown children in this country go to a public school. If they dismantle the Department of Education, all of the protections that are in place for our children, including how this money is allocated, because that's where these free lunches and reduced lunches come from, and some of our kids would not eat without those monies. And so them eliminating public education is a direct affront to black and brown children. Are you all hearing me? They would encourage Christian indoctrination in public schools like they're already doing. They would dismantle civil rights and DEI protections at all levels of the government. If you have ever had to file an EEOC complaint, if you have ever had to file a lawsuit for civil rights protections, all of that goes away. Do you understand how crazy these people are? That the DEI offices and civil rights offices in the government and in the Department of Education, they intend to flip those now, where instead of looking for discrimination against marginalized groups or minoritized groups, those departments now will begin to search out ways to protect white privilege. In other words, those DEI offices and civil rights offices would pursue what they call reverse discrimination. It's crazy. Look up Stephen Miller. They actually have a campaign right now where they are looking for white men who have grievance, who says that they did not get a job or did not get admitted to a university because of affirmative action or DEI. They are mounting up to fight all initiatives that protect marginalized people. This is under Project 2025. Let me go. They're going to eliminate no-fault divorce. So if you get married and you and your spouse don't work out and you all decide as grown people that you want to dissolve your marriage and move on, that will not be allowed. This is in black and white. I'm not making any of this up. This is not out of some crazy movie that I saw. This is in Project 2025. There will be a total ban on abortions, regardless of what the situation is. If you were raped, you cannot get an abortion. If you were molested, if there was a matter of incest and you were impregnated by your uncle or your father, you cannot get an abortion. If the life of the mother even is in jeopardy, you will not be allowed to get an abortion. They are taking complete autonomy away from women and them making decisions about their reproductive health. They're taking it away. There'll be a ban on all contraception. Women, no more birth control pills. And I'm wondering even now if that's going to mean that condoms will be banned. It's a form of contraception. They believe, and some of them have said some crazy things out of their mouth. They believe that it is God's will that we all reproduce, that we multiply, and that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are of a child being born. It is God's will that that child be born. They're not going to have no money to take care of them afterward. They're not going to have any free lunch programs. They're going to take your health care away. They're going to do all of those things, but you have to have that baby. It's in this document. Let me keep going. They're going to ban African American and gender studies at all levels of education. We're already seeing it here in Texas. We're seeing it in Florida. There's some other states where this is already happening. But this, again, is going to be at a federal level. There are going to be more tax cuts for major corporations and the 1%, while they're going to increase taxes on the rest of us. I am not making any of this up. There was already a $1.2 trillion tax break that Trump signed into law when he was in the last time and blew up our debt. They're going to do it again. They're going to eliminate all unions and all worker protections. So if you're a part of a union that makes sure that you work in a work safe environment, that you're paid fairly, that you get overtime, do you all recognize that under this, if Project 2025 comes into play, if you work overtime at your job, you will not be paid for it? All of this OSHA regulations where it's got to be safe and companies have to be regulated so that, your hand don't get chopped off when you're at work. All of this stuff, they want to eliminate it because it costs business too much, in their opinion, to make the workplace safe. So they just deregulate everything. This is what's coming. They're going to eliminate all the climate protections. They're going to open up all the Arctic drilling and do all of the things to make sure that the ice caps keep melting and all of the water keeps rising and all of the air gets bad. All of you with asthma or children with asthma and all of this kind of stuff, they're not thinking about you, okay? They're going to eliminate, any regulations on big business. They're going to raise the retirement age. They're talking about taking the retirement age up to 70. 70. They basically want you to work until you die. They're going to promote capital punishment and what they call the speediness of the finality of it. In other words, the death penalty, they're trying to get rid of all of these appeals and processes before someone can be put to death by the state. Now, again, black people, brown people, you got to understand that we're the ones on death row. You also have to understand the number of times that people have been exonerated and it has been discovered that they were not guilty at all. The number of people who have been killed unjustly in this country is astounding. But under Project 2025, not only are they going to be prosecuting us more, but if you get put on death penalty, it's going to happen real quick. And so if they find out later, it's just, oopsie, we're sorry, but you're dead already. This is in Project 2025. Let me keep going. They're only going to recognize traditional families. In other words, Obergefell versus Hodges, that gave marriage equality in this country. Clarence Thomas already said out of his mouth he thinks it should be overturned. Well, under Project 2025, there's going to be a concerted effort to redefine what marriage is. And so those of you who may be in same gender relationships, same gender marriages, those marriages would not only not be allowed going forward, but the ones that have already taken place will no longer be valid. Are you hearing me? This is on paper. They wrote it down in black and white. They're going to dismantle the FBI. They're going to dismantle Homeland Security. You know why that is. Because, dear leader, the king wants to be in charge of what gets investigated, who comes into the country, and all of these different kinds of things. They want to get rid of all of the safety nets, so to speak. They're going to keep banning books. They're going to keep forbidding curriculum that talks about slavery and African American history. They're going to force immigrants to be deported or held in concentration camps. Donald Trump has said out of his mouth that his intention is to round up 12 million people that he says are illegals or undocumented workers, round them up in mass deportations, send them out of the country, or put them in concentration camps. And don't tell me you don't believe that it can't happen. It's already happened. We had internment camps in this country. We put the Japanese in it after World War II. Concentration camps is what we found with Hitler in the Holocaust. And y'all got to know that Hitler was elected. If Donald Trump is elected and he puts into place the things that he needs, like the Supreme Court, he even says that he's going to get rid of all the civil servants, people that work for the government. He's going to replace them with sycophants, with people who are loyal to him. And so basically, they're going to be the ones who push the paper to allow them to make Project 2025 happen. If you work for the government, you might lose your job like that. That's what they're coming for. They're going to ban Muslims again. Remember, they did it already. They had a Muslim ban, and they're talking about doing it again. This is written here. They're going to dismantle the Food and Drug Administration, so your food is not going to be safe. They're going to dismantle the EPA, so the environment is not going to be safe. They're going to dismantle what's called the National Oceanic and Atmospheric whatever that organization is. But basically, people that live on the coast, my family that lives in Houston, we're not going to know when the hurricanes are coming because there's not going to be NOAA anymore. It's going away. And they have already said that if Donald Trump is elected again, they are going to expand the number of Supreme Court justices and pack them with ultra conservatives, where there will be a supermajority for the rest of our lives. These are all the things that are in Project 2025. And again, that's just some of it. It's 970 pages of this draconian idea of what a nation would look like governed by Christian nationalists. And so the question that I have for you is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Because I need you to understand that you are not helpless. You are not hopeless. You are not inconsequential in this democratic process. And too many of us, whether it is by apathy or exhaustion, have checked out. We like to jump up and down and very arrogantly say sometimes, black people do, oh, well, we're not our ancestors. If white people treated us like that back during the civil rights, they would have had something else. Well, guess what? Here is your civil rights movement, your opportunity. What are you going to do? Because what our forefathers did is they organized. They came together. They fought back. They got rights put on the books in legislation. What are we going to do? Too many of us are obsessed with social media and reality television, and they are literally stripping your rights. You young ladies, and I hate saying it like this because some of us need government assistance, while we're going to school or while we're recovering from a hard time. Do you know that they want to get rid of food benefits? They want to get rid of Obamacare. You're not going to have anything to eat, and you're not going to be able to go to the doctor. But we dancing on the roof. We eating crab legs and getting BBLs and don't realize that they are literally getting ready to legislate you to death. We got to get our heads out of the sand. We got to pay attention to what's going on. And I raised this tonight for this reason. And again, I wish there was 1,000 people on here. And again, I pray that you all share this with as many people as you can. We are literally in an existential crisis. Our existence, our very existence is being threatened. It's being threatened. I could go farther. There are people who are in this Christian nationalist movement who believe that the earth is overpopulated. Let me tell you what that means. That means that they're looking for some people to die. That makes more resources available for them. It's one of the reasons that many people say that COVID ran the way that it did, because they wanted some of the population to go away. Do you recognize that if we have another pandemic, another situation, that the fail-safes, the safety nets, the organization that needs to be in place to keep us safe, they are eliminating all of those things. And I need y'all to understand, black and brown people and other people of color, we are the canary in the coal mine. Somebody says if America has a cold, black people have pneumonia. It's always going to hit us hardest. And so we've got to pay attention. And so I don't want to just give you the bad news. I don't want to just give you what's in 2025. I call myself trying to educate you, but I want to give you some things that I think we can do. Give me about 10 more minutes and we'll be finished. Some things that I think we can do. Some of y'all gonna think this is corny. But the first thing you can do is make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure of it. Your vote is your voice. Making posts and videos and stuff like that on social media, that's cute, but that does not move the needle. Your vote is your voice. And I want to speak very specifically to a group of people, and I apologize for being offensive here. No, actually, I don't. I'm going to say what I got to say. And if you're offended, that's something you need to go deal with. If you in this election are preoccupied or obsessed with the fact that Joe Biden is 81 years old and you just can't bring yourself to vote for him, and you want to cast a protest vote and write your cat in, or you want to vote for a third party, I want you to understand that you are voting against your own interests, and it is immature and it is impetuous. Now is not the time for a protest vote. You can protest after we save democracy. You can protest after we make sure our rights are secured. You can protest, write an op-ed, write a book and protest. But this vote that is coming up in November is not just about Biden and Trump. This is about democracy and autocracy. This is about life and death. Biden was not my first pick. I didn't vote for him in the primary, but guess what? Biden is the sitting president with all his flaws. I got issues with his support of the Israeli regime. I got problems with I got problems. But guess what? I understand that for my own interests, Joe Biden, what he represents, is going to protect me. So guess what? Joe Biden can be dead. He can be cremated in an urn. I'm still going to vote for him. Because the alternative is detrimental to me, my family, my children, my nieces and nephews, the generations that will come after me. It is detrimental to the people that I serve in ministry. And so I don't have the privilege of a protest vote. I'm voting like my life depends upon it. And you need to as well. We can hash it out after the election is over, but all of this silliness and this circular firing squad that we're in, having these stupid conversations about we need to replace Biden, there is not going to be a replacement. If there is, God help us, because I don't know what we're going to do, but we need to figure out how to rally around our best hope and figure out the rest of it later. So number one, vote. Vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Second thing, talk to your family and your friends. Have conversations. One of the things that we've already started doing in our home, and I want to encourage many of you to do it, have people over, cook for them, sit them down and initiate a conversation about this. Talk to people. Go on the internet and just print out that list that I just read from 2025. Go on the internet and get it. Bring your family and friends to your house and have a conversation about it. Because everybody's not tapped in for whatever reason. Maybe they work or they're in school or they just don't know. If you're a responsible person, talk to your family and your friends. Next thing, number 3, vote in all the elections. I mean, from the school board up to the president. Because the truth is, local elections impact your life more than the presidential election. People in Houston, you're feeling that right now. Our representatives that are in Congress, our city council people, our county officials, those people have direct line to us, their policies, their implementations, their policing. All of these things have a direct effect on us. So we need to vote in all of the elections. Number 4, hold your representatives accountable. If they're not doing what you elected them to do, let their asses have it. Show up at the school board meeting, show up at city council, write letters, make phone calls, hold them accountable. You're not hopeless. You're not helpless. Number 5, some of y'all need to run for office. I said what I said. There are too many self-absorbed cronies in these political offices, and that's why nothing can happen. One of the things that I love about some of these new freshmen or younger legislators like Jasmine Crockett from here in Dallas or AOC from New York, some of these young, fresh representatives, we need those kinds of voices in elected office. Some of you all are more than qualified. You've got the education, you've got the charisma, you've got the connects, you've got the ideas. We need to be running for office. Number 6, this is a little radical, but I'm going to say what I got to say. Protect your household. For those that don't understand it, I grew up with a grandfather who kept a rifle in the pantry that was right kind of close to the front entry of my grandmother's house. I don't advocate violence. I'm a former Marine. I'm an expert marksman. I don't advocate violence, but let me tell you something. If you want to jump, Judy, I got something for you. And the reason I bring this up, I hate saying it, but the reason I bring this up is that I don't want you to be caught unaware, because there is a contingent of white nationalists who are ready for a civil war. They have said it. They've got the weapons. They've got the ammunition. And it's so ridiculous in Texas. Do you know now they have vending machines in the grocery stores here where you can buy bullets? I am not kidding you. This is the world that we are living in. And just like they came for us back in Greenwood and Tulsa and came and burned our neighborhoods down and did it in other places in the country, don't think that they won't try to do it again. And we have to be in a place where we keep our head on a swivel, where we are paying attention, and that we have done the things that we need to do to protect our household. I just said what I said. The next thing you need to do is develop some communication channels that don't have anything to do with social media. We need to have some phone trees and some text trees and some email lists and all of that, because again, if the certain people come in place and they decide that they want to shut certain media channels down, they can do that. You recognize even now that if you put certain words in your post, it gets censored. I'm telling you all, it is happening already, and we've got to be able to be united and be able to be connected to one another in ways that do not include social media. Number 8, develop an exit strategy. If the shit really hit the fan and we got to, oh Lord. If it hits the fan and we got to get the hell up out of here, you need to already have some plan on where you and your family are going to go. Political exile is a real thing. There are people who are at the southern border of the United States trying to get away from crazy political regimes. Do you know the same thing is possible here? We've got to get a plan in place. There are places all over the world who are ready to receive American people. They've got digital nomad visas already set up. There are places where it's not hard at all for you to get dual citizenship. Begin to research those things now and have those conversations with your family and your friend groups. Don't be caught unaware. So develop an exit strategy. Number 9, the old people in my family would tell me this all the time. My mother tells me this. I understand it now. Start stacking some cash. If you got to bury it in a coffee can in the backyard, or put it under your mattress, or wherever it is you put, stack some cash where you can quickly and easily get to it if you need to. And I know I sound alarmist, and guess what? I mean to. It is my intention to sound alarmist, because the house is on fire. The Titanic is sinking. And too many of us are still on the deck dancing. We're still on the roof dancing. And my role, again, as a leader in the community is to tell you, as a prophet, is to tell you, this is what is happening. Make a plan. Do the things that you need to do. Pay attention. Have some conversations. Get educated. Watch the news. Don't watch it so much that it gets you depressed, but you need to know what's going on. The Real Housewives, they're not going to help you. You need to be looking at the news. And not Fox News, because that's not news. That's propaganda. Yo, I can't go on all night. I can't go on all night. But I'm passionate about this because I want my people to be okay. I want you to be safe. I want you to be aware. I want you to take your power back. I want you to make decisions that are not just good for you, but that are good for the people who depend on you. Our children are looking at us. Our children are depending upon us. Many of us have enjoyed rights and privileges throughout our entire lives that are getting ready to be taken away from our children. My mother-in-law, who's about to turn 80 years old, my own mother, who is in her 70s, they've got stories about what it was like before integration. They've got stories of what it was like living in Jim Crow. I will be damned if I stand by and let my children have to go and suffer what our parents suffered. What a piss poor generation we would be if we allowed that to happen. And so, I need you in these next 120 some days before this election to dig your head out of the sand, to get educated about Christian nationalism and Project 2025, because it's here. And you're going to have to figure out what you are going to do something about it. Y'all, I said all of this because I love you. I said all of this because I love you. And I hope that you will take the initiative to do something with it. Amen. All right. If y'all want to support the ministry, you can do that. I would appreciate it if you would. You can send a gift to Cash App. It's $Willhorn Ministries. If you want to get more information about me and the stuff that's going on, you can go to explorewillhorn.com or follow me on any social media. Okay. But I'm going to be talking about this a lot because I need you to know. Okay. I pray peace and grace and protection over all of you. And I pray that you would pray for me as I do this work. Okay? I love you guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And I look forward to getting with you the next time. Okay? Take it easy.